Alrighty then.
Welcome to Indoor Fun.
Alrighty then. I want to talk a little bit about safety play when you're playing pool. Whether you're playing 8-ball, 9-ball, snooker, there's situations where, you may not be comfortable with the shot you're going to take. So you're looking for an opportunity to maybe leave a safe, make it difficult, maybe get a ball in hand. The way I look at it is there's a few scenarios here. So the easiest safety is just to leave distance between the cue ball and the object ball. So make a difficult shot for your opponent, right? So that's one that you got to think about sometimes. Maybe you're not comfortable with the shot, so instead maybe you kick it a couple of rails and you make it difficult for them. They have a long shot. The other scenario is hiding the cue ball, right? So you hide it behind some balls, right? The other one is hiding the object ball, sending it a couple of rails behind some balls. So that's three. And one of the big scenarios is a two-way shot. And that one comes up a lot where you actually have an opportunity to maybe make a shot, but if you're gonna miss it so that it's safe, right? So that's example of a two-way shot. And I'm going to show all four of those concepts in a few different shots on the table. So stay tuned. All right, so here's a situation that happens. You're playing 9-ball and you made a mistake on the 8 and you don't have great position on the 9 and you're not feeling overly confident. That cut is very difficult and the long bank is there, but you're just not confident in making it. So in this situation, you can just put distance between the cue ball and the 9-ball. Send the 9-ball down, try to get it all the way down to the end rail. Leave your opponent with a difficult shot, right? Let him make the mistake. You put yourself in this position by making a mistake. Let's get out of it by making it difficult for him. Let's see how it turns out. You got to focus on the speed. You want to get it so that it's just coming down here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Whoa. There. Now you've left your opponent with a very difficult shot, even harder than yours. I don't know what he's going to do, but if he misses it, chances are you're going to have an easy shot. So that's one safety situation that you really do need to practice, and you need to identify when to take that shot. Stay tuned for some more. Alrighty then, so here's an example, right, where you have a difficult shot, right, on this one. You could try the long bank. It's very tight. You're not going to be able to cut it. It's very difficult. But you can basically put that cue ball behind this wall of balls, right? Just a matter of making sure, right, that you get your angle right. You know how many, from your diamond system, right? You're going to be kind of coming down through here and try to hide it in behind here. So let's just see how that works. This is a very common safety play and one that you should practice when you get a chance. A little bit of running English, and you want to go 2 rails off the 3rd rail, and your opponent does not have a shot. Doesn't even have a kick. He's going to have to kick this way. So that is a very common safety play that you should really identify in a game situation and try it. They work really well. Stay tuned for some more. Here's a shot that comes in quite often. You don't have a shot on this 1 ball. This 2 ball is blocking it. You just don't have a good shot. You do have a wall of balls, which is nice to see. But look at that 9 ball over there. Wouldn't it be nice to play a safety shot where you can basically hide this object ball, the 1 ball, and say you could go 1, 2 rails and just hide it behind these balls, but leave it such that if your opponent makes a mistake, you have ball in hand and a 1-9 combination for the win. Let's see how this one works. Again, on these shots, you got to kind of figure out, right, how am I going to shoot this so that I get off my rails. So remember the diamond systems, corner 5 systems, different systems, right? So I want to basically kick it into here, right? And I just want to hit it hard enough to go 2 rails in behind the 9, but behind those balls. Come on. It's a pretty good shot right there. Yeah, so the opponent makes a mistake, and I have ball in hand. Now, that one ball went a little bit further than I wanted, but it is hidden nicely. This guy has to do a kick shot to hit it. So I've left him a difficult shot. I've put distance between the balls, and I've hid, in this case, the object ball and not the cue ball. Stay tuned for some more. Here's a two-way shot example. So in this situation, right, we're playing 9 ball. I'm on the 8. So say this was a little closer to the rail and it was a little harder to cut in, right? So this shot works pretty good. So what you want to do, right, this works when you're not straight, you're more like here and in. So level with this ball and inward, right? So a two-way shot here is you try to make the 8 ball and you try to leave the cue ball behind the 9. So if you make the 8, you've got the 9. But what makes this a two-way shot is if you're going to miss the 8 ball, you want to miss the 8 ball on the short side, not on the long side. So the short side, they call this miss it on the pro side, right? Because if you miss it on the pro side, it'll come off and the 8 ball will be left here and your cue ball's here and you've left them with a difficult shot, right? If you miss on this side, the 8 ball is going to come out and you're going to leave your opponent with an easy shot on the 8. So let me show you what not to do. Don't end up on this side. Now you left your opponent with, with a chance, because that's not that difficult of a cut shot. There's distance, but it's not that difficult. So let's miss it on the pro side, the short side. Very, very difficult situation for your opponent, right? And obviously the best thing is just to make the 8. Get yourself shape on the 8, on the 9, and win the game. Ha! Just like that. Anyway, got some more examples. Stay tuned. Here's another example of putting distance between your balls. So you can thin this ball, bring this down, bring this 8 ball kind of in this area, and then you send your cue ball 1, 2, 3 rails down in this area, leaving a very difficult shot. You just need to hit it thin with a little bit of running English and let it do its thing. Three. And ideally, you leave that cue ball right on the cushion. Anyway, that's another one. Let me get you some more. Stay tuned. Here's a situation similar to the other one. In this situation, I'm going to basically thin the 8 ball and send the 8 ball 1 over towards this rail, over towards the second rail, and try to put my cue ball 1 over towards this rail, leaving a difficult cross side or cross corner depending on where the 2 balls end up. Let's see how this looks. Not too bad. Ideally I would have thinned that just a little more. The cue ball actually took off a little bit more than I wanted, but it's still a very difficult shot. I've put lots of distance between the ball. I'll try it one more time, see if I can't get this to be more on this rail as well. So, yeah. There you go. I left that one. I hit that one with a little bit of inside English to slow it down as it came off of this rail so that it kept closer to that rail. So there's another situation, and I've left my component with a difficult shot. Stay tuned for some more examples. Alrighty then, here's another two-way shot, which tends to come up sometimes, right? So I've got this shot, I'm shooting at the one, right? And I don't have a good shot at this corner. Say I had a ball that was in the way, like here, so I couldn't cut that in, right? So I can try to shoot the one long bank, right? But I want to basically stop the cue ball behind the four ball. So if I miss the one, my opponent really doesn't have a shot. But if I make the one, I'm sitting on the two. So let's see how that works. So in that particular situation, I missed, but I left that one frozen to the four ball. Absolutely frozen, right? That's a great two-way shot right there. So those situations come up a lot and you need to look for those. Let me show you some more. Alrighty, here's a great situation. So you can't cut the one in, right? But the four ball and the two ball are perfect. You can actually just stop the cue ball behind these two balls, send the one ball 3 rails, and actually the 9 ball's in the corner. You could actually try to make the 9, and worst case, the opponent is not going to have a shot. Let's see what this looks like. This is almost like the perfect two-way shot. All you have to do is hit this just slightly below center and let it stop behind the four ball. Just like that. And it doesn't matter if you don't make that, because you've just set up a perfect combination. Now he has to do a perfect kick. And I can tell you, that's pretty frozen. He can't kick this way. So now he's got to kick 2 rails to try to make that 1-9 combination, which could be very difficult. Chances are he misses, and I got an easy win. Stay tuned. I got some more. These are fun. This is actually a really cool example. I can't make the one. Doesn't go on the side, doesn't go up in the corner. But man, I can hide that one ball behind these balls. But even better, I can draw the cue ball back and I can hide the cue ball behind these balls. So this is like a double whammy of hiding both the cue ball and the object ball behind a cluster of balls. This shot may not come up that often, but if you're paying attention, this one is a really, really good one. Let's see what it looks like. Two. There you go. So I was a little bit hard on that first shot, but I'm hidden behind here. My opponent would have to do a jump shot in this situation, but let's see if I can do it even better. Speed control. It's all about speed control, okay? Very, very important. That's a little bit better, although I did come a little close here. But I don't know if you noticed, but there was actually a third possibility here. I could just hit the one, put the one behind there, but just leave the one behind the 7 ball. Very similar shot. You're just going to put a little bit of stun stop. So basically, you're just hitting it like middle and just a touch below center, just so it stops. Just like that. Not bad. Haha. Let me see if I got a couple more for you. Stay tuned. Alrighty then. This actually, you can play the shot many different ways. So I saw this talked about in another video, which I thought was pretty interesting. So the concept is very simple. So there's two ways you can do this. You can basically try to thin the 7 and bring the cue ball down the table, in which case you've left the 7 and the 8 together on this side of the table. So if you're not perfect, you might have actually left your opponents with a shot to make the 7 and be up table to make the 8. The other option is to send the cue ball or send the 7 ball down the table and leave the cue ball up on this side of the table. So when you think about that concept, that is actually a lot smarter. So now you've left separation, right? From the 7 ball to the 8 ball to the 9 ball. So you're making it more difficult for your opponent. So let's just see what it might look like. It might take me a couple of takes to get it right. So let's just see. So let's do the first case where I try to thin the 7 and bring the cue ball down the table behind the 9 and see what that looks like. Interesting. And that's exactly what the guy, when I watched the video, he was talking about it. You might actually make it, but then you've left yourself a really difficult shot, right? And that's exactly what that would have been. So let's see if I can't thin it properly and see what happens when both balls end up in the same end of the table. So I just need to make sure that I thin it better than I did on that one. Right, so I'm gonna thin it, try to bring the 7 ball, leave the 7 there and bring the cue ball down the table. Okay. That is a difficult shot for the opponent, right? But the problem with this shot is that if the opponent is really good at long banks, he might make that long bank and leave the cue ball sitting pretty good on the 8 ball, right? So yes, you've left distance and you made it difficult, but it's not as difficult. At least that's what this pro was saying on how he would handle that shot. So let's try it the other way, where I try to put the 7 ball down the table and see what that looks like. So for this particular shot, right, I'm going to have to hit it with a little bit of draw to leave the cue ball down here. But I want to make sure that I get the 7 ball off 1, 2 rails back in this area behind the 9 ball. So I've got to really focus on making sure that the 7 ball kind of goes towards that diamond. Just with a little bit of draw. Doesn't have to be perfect, but let's see what it does. I gotta say, I agree with the pro. That is the way to make that shot. Look at that. I've left this guy so difficult. I can't even see the 7 ball. So he's got a kick to make the 7, right? Anyway, that's an interesting one. So I like that. I'm gonna see if I can't find out where I got that from. I'll put a link just to give him credit for that particular setup, because That's 3 ways to play that shot. And I think that is the best way. That's the pro way. And that's why he's a pro. And his video is pretty darn good. Anyway, let me just do some closing remarks. Stay tuned. Alrighty then. So I hope those different safety play scenarios will help you in your game, right? So let's go over the concepts again, right? So we have putting distance between the cue ball and the object ball, making it difficult for your opponent to make a shot. The other one is hiding the cue ball behind a wall of balls, right? Or just behind one ball, right? If you can do a stun, stop, roll up against a ball and send the other ball around, another way of doing it. What else? So that's hiding the cue ball, hiding the object ball, right? So there might be a wall of balls on the other side of the table, and you can basically hit your object ball and make it go a couple rails and hide behind those, making it very difficult for your opponent. There's always the two-way shots, and actually those are the ones I constantly look for, right? Where worst case, you leave safe, but best case, you make the ball. And even best case, you make the ball and you set up for a game. So you set yourself up perfectly for a game. Yeah, those are the situations you gotta look for. Some people might say, oh, that's boring, right? Oh, I'm sorry, but when you're playing in a league against a bunch of guys and your team's counting on you, if you get a safety that ends up helping you win, that's just fun. Ha! See ya! Thanks for watching. See ya.